Stop these 5 habits or be ignored forever. Stoicism. The world is not ignoring you because it is cruel. It is ignoring you because you have taught it to. Every day, through habits repeated without awareness, through patterns of thought and behavior carried like chains, you instruct others how to treat you. You tell them whether to see you or to pass by as though you were invisible. And if you are being overlooked, it is not fate, nor injustice, nor the cruelty of others. It is the result of habits that have quietly diminished your presence until you fade into the background of your own life. Think about the times you have entered a room and gone unnoticed, not because people were blind, but because there was nothing about you that demanded attention, nothing about your character or conduct that made them pause. And then think about another kind of person, the one who enters the same room and without a word draws the eyes of everyone present, not through arrogance, not through noise, but through the silent gravity of discipline, purpose, and strength. That person is not necessarily smarter, richer, or more gifted than you. What separates them from being overlooked is their refusal to tolerate habits that strip them of respect. The Stoics understood this deeply. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire, yet he constantly reminded himself that his worth was not in the throne, but in how he carried himself, how he lived in accordance with virtue. Epictetus, born a slave, had no wealth, no status, yet his words carried such power that they echo across millennia. What did these men have? Not the world's approval, but the strength of character that made them unignorable. They trained themselves to strip away the habits that weaken a soul, and in doing so, they commanded attention without asking for it. That is the promise of Stoicism. Not that the world will suddenly bend to you, but that you will become the kind of person who cannot be dismissed. And that is the danger of neglecting it. To continue on with the same careless habits is to ensure a life where you are overlooked, forgotten, and dismissed before your work is even considered. You must choose which road to walk. This is why today we must be brutally honest with ourselves. We must confront the patterns that make others turn their eyes away, that make opportunities pass us by, that make even our own spirit begin to ignore its potential. If you keep living in these patterns, the consequence is clear: obscurity. Not the noble kind where one lives humbly, content with a quiet life of virtue. No, I mean the bitter kind, where you are desperate to be noticed, yet never are, because you have cultivated weakness instead of strength. And so I put the question to you: do you want to live a life that matters, one that commands attention through its dignity and purpose? Or will you choose to remain invisible? The choice is in your habits. If you continue in the habits we will speak of, you will guarantee a life where your voice is unheard, your presence unfelt, your name unremembered. But if you stop them, if you tear them out as a surgeon cuts away decay, you will begin to build a life that cannot be ignored. So listen carefully. This is not entertainment, not mere words to pass the time. This is a mirror held before you. You may not like what you see, but it is necessary. Today we will uncover the 5 habits that will ensure you remain ignored forever if you do not stop them. And we will see the Stoic cure that can free you, that can help you stand with unshakable presence. Because the world does not owe you respect, you must earn it. And if you live with the strength of a Stoic, you will not need to beg for it. It will follow you, unbidden, as naturally as the eye is drawn to light in the darkness. A man is not made in a moment. He is shaped by repetition, molded by the choices he makes each day, often without even noticing. The Stoics taught that character is destiny, and character is nothing more than the accumulation of habits. These habits are the unseen architects of our fate, drawing the outlines of who we become and how others respond to us. If you wonder why you are ignored, the answer is not hidden in the cruelty of the world. but in the daily rituals of thought and action that you have allowed to govern you. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. What you think, you become. What you practice, you embody. Each thought repeated enough becomes a pattern. Each pattern repeated enough becomes a habit. And each habit lived long enough becomes a destiny." It is not the rare, dramatic decision that determines whether you will be respected or dismissed, but the quiet and ordinary habits you perform without scrutiny. These are the whispers that shape your life more than any single shout. The Stoics were relentless in reminding themselves of this truth. Epictetus taught his students that it is not external events that ruin us, but our patterns of response to them. When insulted, do you respond with dignity or with bitterness? When challenged, do you retreat in fear or step forward with courage? These responses, repeated over and over, begin to paint a portrait of who you are. And people, whether they say it aloud or not, read this portrait with astonishing clarity. They decide within moments if you are worth listening to, if you can be trusted, if you carry weight, or if you can be dismissed like background noise. Consider how habits signal strength or weakness without a word. The person who constantly seeks validation sends the signal of insecurity. The one who complains sends the signal of fragility. The one who speaks much but delivers little sends the signal of emptiness. People may not analyze it in detail, but they feel it instinctively. They turn away from those whose habits betray weakness, and they are drawn, almost magnetically, to those whose habits radiate discipline, purpose, and resilience. This is why the Stoics placed such importance on discipline and self-examination. Every evening, Seneca would review his day and ask, "What did I do well? What could I have done better? Which habits are shaping me toward virtue and which are leading me astray?" He did not wait for others to correct him. He understood that self-respect begins with self-awareness, and only a person who governs his habits can command the respect of others. Think about the habits that dominate your own life. Are they habits that sharpen you or dull you? Do they make you stand taller or shrink you in the eyes of others? The habits we will explore in this discourse are not trivial flaws. They are corrosive forces. Left unchecked, they erode your presence, strip you of dignity, and make you invisible to the very world in which you long to be seen. They are the slow poisons that kill not the body, but the respect a person might have earned. You must also understand this. Habits are not neutral. They move you forward or they pull you back. They either command respect or invite dismissal. There is no middle ground. When you seek validation, you are training others to ignore your independence. When you complain, you are teaching them that you are powerless. When you drift without purpose, you are signaling that your life is of no consequence. When you speak without action, you are exposing your emptiness. And when you avoid discomfort, you are showing that you cannot be relied upon in the trials that truly matter. It is for this reason that we must examine and uproot these habits as a gardener pulls weeds before they strangle the harvest. For life is short, and every day spent tolerating these corrosive patterns is a day that could have been lived with strength and clarity. The Stoics remind us that time is the most precious resource, and wasting it on destructive habits is the surest way to lose both respect and opportunity. So let us strip away illusions. Let us stand before ourselves with honesty as Marcus Aurelius did, acknowledging that our fate lies not in the stars, nor in the hands of others, but in the choices we repeat each day. If you do not master your habits, they will master you. If you do not discipline your mind, the world will dismiss you as one more soul adrift. But if you seize this moment, if you begin the hard but noble work of cutting away these 5 habits, you will find that your life begins to change. Respect will not need to be begged for. It will follow you as naturally as shadows follow form. Now we turn to the first of these 5 habits, one of the most insidious, one that guarantees you will be overlooked: the hunger for validation. There is a sickness that eats away at the soul more quietly than hunger or thirst. It is the craving for validation, the ceaseless desire to be approved, applauded, and recognized. It hides itself as humility, as friendliness, as harmless longing for connection. Yet beneath it lies dependence, weakness, and the surrender of your dignity. For when your sense of worth is built on the shifting opinions of others, you become a slave to their judgment. And no one respects a slave to opinion. They ignore him because he ignores himself. The Stoics warned against this trap. Marcus Aurelius wrote again and again to remind himself, "It is not what they say or think that matters, it is what you do." He was Emperor of Rome, the most powerful man on earth, yet he understood the futility of chasing applause. He knew the crowd could turn in an instant, that the same voices that cheered one day could condemn the next. To tie your self-worth to such fickle winds is to guarantee despair. And yet, how often do we seek this validation today? We measure ourselves by the number of likes, the nods of approval, the fleeting praise of strangers who neither know nor care for the truth of our character. We adjust our words to please, we shape our actions to avoid criticism, and in doing so, we teach the world that we are desperate for its approval. And what does the world do with the desperate? It dismisses them, it overlooks them. Imagine a man who enters a room and speaks cautiously, nervously, constantly scanning faces to see if he has said the right thing, waiting for smiles to reassure him that he is acceptable. Now imagine another who enters with calm assurance, who speaks only what he believes to be true, who is unmoved whether others nod or frown, because his compass is not the reaction of others, but the principle within him. Who do you think people notice? Who do you think commands respect? This is the secret. The more you seek validation, the less you receive it. People are not drawn to those who beg for attention, but to those who live as though they do not need it. The Stoic knows that dignity comes from within, that virtue is its own reward. When you cease to chase recognition, you begin to embody the kind of strength that is impossible to ignore. Epictetus, once a slave, became a teacher whose words outlasted emperors. Did he win this by begging men to listen? No. He lived with such integrity and strength that others could not help but listen. He taught that our freedom comes not from controlling others' opinions, but from mastering our own judgments. When you detach your worth from the approval of others, you become unshakable. You cannot be ignored because you no longer care if you are applauded. Paradoxically, this indifference to validation is what commands genuine respect. You must recognize the chains that this habit has wrapped around you. How often have you stayed silent, not because it was right, but because you feared disapproval? How often have you spoken words you did not believe just to gain acceptance? How often have you chosen the easier path, not out of principle, but out of fear of criticism? Each time you do this, you carve away a piece of yourself until little remains but the shadow of who you might have been. The Stoic cure begins with withdrawing your worth from the marketplace of opinion. Do not place your dignity up for auction to be sold to the highest bidder of approval. Instead, anchor it in virtue, in the quiet knowledge that you have acted according to reason and principle. Begin with small steps. The next time you feel the urge to seek reassurance, pause. Ask yourself, is what I am about to do in line with my principles, or am I chasing applause? If it is the latter, resist. Strengthen the muscle of independence, one choice at a time. Another practice is to stand firm in silence when you are tempted to explain yourself. Let your actions speak. Do not rush to soften every edge of your character so that no one is offended. Live your truth with calm confidence. This does not mean arrogance nor disregard for others, but clarity, the recognition that respect flows from authenticity, not from pandering. There will be discomfort in this, for the habit of seeking validation is deeply ingrained. You may feel the sting of disapproval when you stop conforming, but remember the words of Marcus Aurelius. If you are distressed by anything external, it is not the thing itself, but your judgment of it. The disapproval of others has no power unless you hand them the keys to your soul. Respect is not given to those who plead for it. Respect is given to those who embody strength, whether praised or condemned. The world will always ignore the one who asks, "Do you see me?" But it will always take notice of the one who says, "I see myself, and I will live accordingly." Stop begging for validation. Stop craving applause. Stop surrendering your dignity to the shifting moods of the crowd. The day you do, you will find that respect, which once eluded you, begins to follow you without effort. For the man who does not need approval is the one who deserves it, and he will never be ignored. There is another habit, just as corrosive as the hunger for validation, and perhaps even more insidious because it disguises itself as harmless honesty. It is the habit of complaining and excusing, of turning every difficulty into a grievance and every failure into someone else's fault. Nothing will cause the world to overlook you more quickly than this. For when a person is known as one who complains, who always has an excuse ready, they teach others not to take them seriously. Their words lose weight, their presence loses substance, and soon they fade into the background noise of discontent. The Stoics understood that life is filled with hardship, injustice, and obstacles. They did not deny this. Marcus Aurelius ruled in times of plague, war, and betrayal. Yet his writings are filled not with complaints, but with reminders to endure and to act rightly regardless of circumstances. He knew that to complain is to waste energy, to add another burden to the very hardship one is already carrying. Complaining solves nothing, and worse, it announces to the world that you are powerless. Excuses function in the same way. They are the armor of the weak, the shield of those unwilling to take responsibility. An excuse may protect your pride in the moment, but it destroys your credibility over time. For others learn quickly that your words cannot be trusted, that you will always find a reason why you could not, why you did not, why you should not be held accountable. And so they stop relying on you. They stop noticing you. You become invisible because you have made yourself irrelevant. Consider two people in the same workplace. One faces a difficult assignment and spends the day muttering about how unfair it is, how the manager favors others, how the task is impossible. The other quietly accepts the challenge, does the best with what is within their control, and asks no sympathy. Whom do you respect? Whom do you notice? The one who complains is tolerated but ignored. The one who acts without excuses commands attention without seeking it. The Stoic cure for this habit lies in a single principle: distinguish what is within your control from what is not. Complaints are always about what lies outside your control. Excuses are always about shifting responsibility for what is inside your control. Epictetus said it simply: do not demand that events happen as you wish, but wish them to happen as they do, and your life will go smoothly. To complain is to reject reality. To insist that the world obey your desires. To take responsibility is to align yourself with reality and act within it. This does not mean you must endure abuse silently, nor that you must never speak of difficulty. The Stoics did not teach passivity, they taught clarity. If there is injustice, confront it with action, not with whining. If there is hardship, endure it with dignity. If there is a mistake, admit it without excuse and correct it. The difference between noble speech and complaint is purpose. Complaint is noise. Purposeful speech seeks remedy. You can begin the cure through practice. The next time you feel the urge to complain, pause and ask, what part of this is within my control? If there is nothing you can change, accept it without bitterness. If there is something you can change, then act upon it and waste no breath on grievance. In the same way, the next time you fail, resist the instinct to explain it away. Say simply, I failed. I will do better. This simple admission commands more respect than any excuse ever could. Seneca warned against wasting life in resentment. He said that most of us die having never truly lived, because we squander our days on grievances, protests and regrets, instead of using them for what matters. Every moment spent complaining is a moment lost forever. Every excuse given is a chance at growth thrown away. Time is too precious to be spent this way, and your presence in the world is too valuable to be drowned in noise. When you complain, you repel respect. People begin to avoid you, not out of cruelty, but out of instinct. They sense that your energy is heavy, your words fruitless, your presence draining. But when you endure hardship without complaint, when you take responsibility without excuse, you radiate strength. Others may not even consciously realize it, but they are drawn to you because strength is rare and deeply respected. So stop the habit before it buries you in obscurity. Refuse to complain about what you cannot change. Refuse to excuse what you failed to do. Take the weight of responsibility upon yourself and carry it with dignity. The one who complains fades into the background. The one who excuses is forgotten. But the one who acts, the one who accepts responsibility and confronts reality, that is the one who commands attention. That is the one who will never be ignored. There is a tragedy that does not announce itself with sudden disaster, but with a slow and quiet wasting away. It is the tragedy of a life without purpose. To drift without direction, to wake each day without a guiding principle, is to guarantee that you will be overlooked. For a man without purpose is like a ship without a rudder, tossed by every wave, driven by every wind, yet arriving nowhere. Such a man may be alive, but he is not truly living. And when he passes, few will notice, for nothing in his life compelled attention. The Stoics spoke often of purpose, not in the shallow sense of ambition or personal gain, but in the profound sense of aligning one's life with reason, with virtue, with service to the greater whole. Seneca warned that the greatest loss in life is not death, but the squandering of time. He said that it is not that we have too little time, but that we waste so much of it. And nothing wastes life more completely than drifting through it aimlessly, filling the hours with distraction instead of direction. When you live without purpose, you become forgettable because you give nothing to remember. People notice those who are driven, those who live as if every day matters, those who act with intention. They may not agree with such a person, they may even resist him, but they cannot ignore him. By contrast, the one who lives each day as a repetition of the last, with no higher aim than comfort or amusement, blends into the background of existence, indistinguishable from the millions who do the same. Think of the difference between a man who spends his evenings numbing himself with endless diversions and another who spends his evenings studying, creating, refining his character and pursuing excellence. 10 years later, one has nothing to show but the fading memory of countless wasted hours, while the other has become a person of weight, someone whose presence cannot be dismissed. The gap between them was not fate nor fortune, but purpose. The modern world is full of temptations that strip us of purpose. The endless scroll of entertainment, the addiction to novelty, the lure of constant stimulation. These are the enemies of a purposeful life. They promise relief, they promise enjoyment, but they steal the only thing you cannot replace: your time. Seneca's words echo through the centuries. It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it. And what is wasted time, if not the sign of a wasted life? The Stoics offer a cure: to awaken each day with a clear intention, to decide in advance how you will live, and to measure yourself not by the approval of others, but by your fidelity to your chosen path. Marcus Aurelius would begin his mornings by reminding himself of the duties of the day and of the obstacles he would face. This was not grim ritual, but preparation for a life of purpose. He knew that without this anchor, the storms of fortune would carry him away. You can practice the same discipline. Each morning, ask yourself, what is the purpose of my life? What principle will I serve today? It need not be grandiose. It need only be clear. Perhaps it is the purpose of becoming more just, more disciplined, more courageous. Perhaps it is the purpose of building something that endures, of serving those who depend on you, of embodying virtue in whatever station you occupy. The form matters less than the presence of direction. At the end of each day, review yourself as the Stoics did. Did I live in accordance with my purpose? Did I waste the day, or did I use it as a step towards something greater? This daily rhythm of intention and reflection will slowly transform your life from drifting to directed, from forgettable to formidable. Understand this: a person who lives without purpose cannot be respected because they cannot respect themselves. They are prisoners of impulse, slaves to whatever distraction shouts loudest. But the one who lives with purpose radiates a presence that others cannot ignore. People may not know why, but they sense the difference. Purpose sharpens the eyes, steadies the voice, strengthens the bearing. Even silence from such a person carries more weight than the chatter of one who drifts. If you feel invisible now, it may not be because others are blind. It may be because you have given them nothing to see. Without purpose, you are a shadow. With purpose, you are a flame. Shadows vanish when the light changes. Flames cannot be ignored. Do not wait to discover your purpose in some distant future. Do not hope it will arrive by chance. Choose it, define it, live by it. And even if the world does not applaud you, even if history does not record your name, you will live with dignity, and those who meet you will not forget that they encountered someone who walked with direction. The man or woman of purpose is rare, and rarity commands respect. So, abandon the drift. Stop surrendering your life to distractions. Stop living as though tomorrow is guaranteed. Choose today to live with intention, and your life will begin to gather the gravity of one who cannot be overlooked. For the purposeful man is like a mountain. He does not move for the winds, but the winds move around him. And such a man, such a life, will never be ignored. There is a habit that empties a person of respect faster than weakness of body or lack of wealth. It is the habit of speaking more than doing, of announcing grand plans, making bold claims, or offering endless advice, yet failing to act in a way that supports the words. Nothing makes you more forgettable than promising everything and delivering nothing. For words, when unbacked by deeds, become hollow, and those who speak them are soon ignored. The Stoics warned against this trap with ruthless clarity. Epictetus said, "Don't explain your philosophy, embody it." He knew that endless talk of virtue means little if one does not live it. The world listens briefly to words, but it pays lasting attention to action. A man may speak of discipline, but if his life is marked by indulgence, no one listens to him twice. A man may speak of courage, but if he flees from the smallest trial, his words are dismissed as noise. People may smile politely at such speech, but inwardly they have already turned away. In every age, there are those who speak ceaselessly of what they will accomplish, yet remain unchanged year after year. They promise new ventures, proclaim new habits, boast of what they will become, but when months and years pass and nothing has materialized, people stop believing, stop noticing, and eventually stop caring. A person who speaks too much about what they intend to do writes their own irrelevance. By contrast, there are those who say little and do much. They do not boast of their goals, they work silently toward them. They do not declare their discipline, it is evident in their bearing. They do not announce their courage, it shines in their conduct. And these are the ones who are respected, who are remembered, who cannot be ignored. Their presence carries a weight that no speech alone could ever provide. Marcus Aurelius had the power to speak anything he wished and be heard. Yet in his meditations he constantly reminded himself to act according to principle, not to be seduced by rhetoric. He saw clearly that Rome had no shortage of men who could speak eloquently, but very few who could live with integrity. It was not the speeches of emperors that built the empire, it was the discipline of soldiers, the governance of wise leaders, and the unyielding labor of the people. Words alone never built anything of substance. You must examine yourself honestly here. Do you speak often of what you will do, yet fail to follow through? Do you share your plans with others in search of admiration, as though the announcement were already the accomplishment? Do you give advice to others that you yourself do not live by? These are the signs of the habit that erodes respect. People may tolerate it at first, but over time they learn to disregard you because your speech and your life do not align. The Stoic cure is silence and discipline. Speak less. Do more. Let your actions become your voice. If you must talk, let your words flow from what you have lived, not what you imagine. Give no advice that you do not embody. Announce no plan until you have already taken the first steps toward it. In this way, your words, when they are spoken, will carry the authority of truth. There is great strength in restraint. To keep your ambitions private until they are reality is to preserve their power. To act before you speak is to surprise the world with results instead of boring it with promises. When your life itself becomes the argument, you need no defense, no explanation. Respect follows naturally because actions cannot be denied. Consider how the world responds to the boaster versus the doer. The boaster may gain attention for a moment, but soon his voice blends into the chorus of all the others, making the same empty noise. The doer, however, may not be noticed at first, but once his work appears, once his results are undeniable, all eyes turn to him. And they remain fixed, because substance endures where noise fades. To live as a Stoic is to live with deeds as your measure. If you say you will rise early, then rise early. If you say you will live with temperance, then master your appetites. If you say you will pursue wisdom, then study and reflect daily. Each small act of discipline transforms you from a talker into a doer, from one who is ignored into one who is respected. Words fade like breath in the wind. Deeds echo long after the breath has gone. Do not seek to impress others with what you intend to do. Impress them with what you have done. Better still, do not even seek to impress, simply live so that your life itself speaks. For the one who speaks endlessly but does little will always be ignored, but the one who does much, even in silence, will never be forgotten. There is a final habit that strips a person of dignity and ensures they will be passed over in silence. It is the habit of avoiding discomfort, of always choosing the easier path, of shrinking from difficulty. Nothing weakens presence more than a life devoted to comfort. For the one who avoids hardship is the one who avoids growth, and the one who avoids growth becomes forgettable. People instinctively overlook those who cannot endure trials, for they know such a person cannot be relied upon when it matters most. The Stoics believed that adversity was not an enemy, but a teacher. Marcus Aurelius wrote that what stands in the way becomes the way. He knew that obstacles are not barriers, but opportunities to build strength, to prove character, to demonstrate virtue. To run from discomfort is to run from the very conditions that forge respect. The world does not honor those who hide, it honors those who endure. In modern life, comfort seduces us everywhere. Food is plentiful, distraction is endless, conveniences are constant. With a few taps, one can summon pleasure, entertainment, or escape. But with each indulgence, the muscle of resilience weakens. The habit of seeking the easier road creeps into all corners of life. Procrastination instead of action, silence instead of difficult truth, withdrawal instead of confrontation, indulgence instead of discipline. And soon, a person discovers that they are not only ignored by others, they no longer respect themselves. Think of two soldiers in battle. One avoids danger, hides when the fighting begins, and looks always for safety. The other steps forward, takes the risk, endures the hardship. Who will the men remember? Who will they follow? It is not the one who sought comfort, but the one who accepted discomfort and proved unshakable. This is not only true of war, but of all life. In work, in relationships, in the pursuit of wisdom, it is the one who endures difficulty that stands out, while the one who avoids it fades away. The Stoics practiced voluntary discomfort precisely to guard against this weakness. Seneca would fast, would wear rough clothing, would remind himself that poverty and hardship were not to be feared. By doing so, he trained his mind to see comfort as unnecessary and strength as essential. Epictetus, crippled from birth, endured suffering without complaint and turned his pain into a lesson for all who came after him. They knew that comfort makes a person soft, but hardship makes them strong. You can begin this practice yourself. Take cold showers, walk instead of driving, fast for a day, speak the difficult truth instead of hiding behind silence. Enter the uncomfortable conversation you have been avoiding. Each act of chosen discomfort is a declaration to yourself and to the world. I will not be ruled by ease. I will not be overlooked because I am soft. I will endure what others flee from. The world notices the resilient because resilience is rare. It is easy to laugh, to indulge, to hide when life is simple. But when difficulty comes, the difference is revealed instantly. The one who has trained himself to endure discomfort stands firm, while the one who has fled from it, his whole life collapses. And it is in these moments of trial that respect is won or lost forever. If you want to be ignored, cling to comfort. Take the easy path at every turn. Avoid challenge, avoid effort, avoid pain. You will certainly be overlooked, because you will have made yourself unworthy of notice. But if you wish to live with weight, with presence, with dignity, then welcome discomfort as a friend. For every hardship endured builds strength, and every strength built commands respect. The Stoic life is not one of luxury or ease. It is a life of training, of preparation, of willing exposure to trial, so that when greater trials come, you are ready. To avoid discomfort is to live in fear. To embrace it is to live with courage. And courage is never ignored. So let go of comfort. Step into the cold, into the difficulty, into the challenge. Each time you do, you step into the kind of life that cannot be dismissed. For the comfortable vanish without a trace, but the resilient leave marks upon the world. The comfortable are forgotten, but the resilient are remembered. You have now seen the 5 habits that guarantee obscurity if left unchecked. To seek validation is to hand your dignity to others. To complain and excuse is to declare your own weakness. To live without purpose is to drift into forgetfulness. To speak more than you act is to hollow yourself out. To avoid discomfort is to ensure that you remain soft, fragile, and replaceable. Each of these habits robs you of presence. Each of them ensures that the world passes you by as though you were never here. But the moment you begin to strip these habits away, you will feel something shift. Your presence begins to gather weight. Where once your words were dismissed, now they are considered, because your life matches them. Where once your actions were overlooked, now they are respected, because they come from a place of purpose. Where once you were forgettable, now you are remembered, because you embody qualities that the human spirit cannot help but recognize. Think of a person who has stopped seeking validation. They move through the world with calm independence, no longer swayed by the approval or disapproval of others. People notice them, not because they demand attention, but because they are anchored while others drift. Now imagine that same person refusing to complain, accepting hardship without excuse. When others hear their words, they carry weight, because everyone knows this is not a person who whines or shifts blame. Add to this a clear purpose, lived daily with intention. Their life is not scattered or wasted, but directed, and people sense it even without being told. Add further the silence of one who does more than he speaks. His achievements are not predicted, they are witnessed. Finally, picture the same person embracing discomfort, enduring what others avoid. Who can ignore such a life? Even enemies cannot help but respect it. This is the transformation from invisible to unignorable. You do not need wealth, fame, or titles for this. You need only to strip away the 5 habits that weaken you and replace them with the discipline of a stoic life. Respect cannot be bought, but it can be earned, and when it is earned, it becomes a shadow that follows you wherever you go. Visualize yourself walking into a room with these habits gone. You do not beg for attention, yet eyes turn toward you. You do not whine or excuse, yet people listen when you speak. You do not drift aimlessly, yet your steps are sure and deliberate. You do not boast, yet your deeds are evident. You do not cling to comfort, yet your very presence communicates strength. You have not asked to be noticed, but you cannot be ignored. This is not arrogance, it is gravity. It is the natural result of living with discipline, purpose, and resilience. It is the echo of a life aligned with virtue. The Stoics never sought fame, but their presence commanded attention precisely because they lived so differently from the common mass of men. In a world of complaint, they endured. In a world of indulgence, they restrained themselves. In a world of noise, they were silent until action spoke. And history remembers them not because they asked to be remembered, but because their lives could not be forgotten. You must choose the same path, not for the applause of others, but for the dignity of your own soul. Do not wait for some distant future to begin. Each day wasted in these 5 habits is a day of invisibility. Each day lived in their absence is a step toward the kind of presence that carries through generations. The truth is simple. To be respected, you must first respect yourself enough to abandon the habits that corrode you. To be seen, you must first see yourself clearly and refuse to tolerate weakness disguised as comfort. To be remembered, you must live with purpose so strong that forgetting you becomes impossible. The world will not hand you presents. It will not grant you respect because you desire it. But live in such a way that you embody strength, and you will never again need to demand notice. It will come unbidden, as surely as light breaks the darkness. Keep these habits, and you will be ignored forever. This is the warning. It is not harshness, but truth. For the world overlooks those who weaken themselves with validation-seeking, with complaints, with purposeless drifting, with empty speech, and with a devotion to comfort. Such people leave no mark. They are as waves upon the shore, gone as quickly as they arrive. Their names vanish, their presence is forgotten, their potential dies unused. But here too lies the promise. Remove these habits, cut them away as a surgeon cuts away rot, and your life begins to change. You will not need to demand respect, for it will come unasked. You will not need to force attention, for presence will follow you like a shadow. By living with dignity, with discipline, and with purpose, you ensure that your life has weight. This is the Stoic way. Marcus Aurelius did not seek to be remembered, yet his meditations endure 2,000 years later. Epictetus had no wealth, no status, yet his words still command respect across centuries. They were not chasing applause, they were not addicted to comfort, they were not wasting time on excuses. They lived aligned with reason and virtue, and in doing so, they made themselves impossible to ignore. Look at your own life. Imagine it from above, as though years have already passed. What will remain of you? Will your days be marked by distraction and complaint, remembered by no one? Or will your days be marked by purpose, resilience, and quiet strength, leaving behind a presence that cannot be forgotten? This is the choice before you. It is not a small matter. It is the difference between a wasted existence and a life of substance. Do not wait to begin. You have already spent enough time drifting, enough time speaking without doing, enough time chasing validation and hiding from discomfort. Life is short, and the end approaches swiftly whether you acknowledge it or not. Seneca reminds us that death stands over our shoulder every day. To waste another moment is to rob yourself of what little remains. So, choose today. Choose to stop the habits that have held you in obscurity. Choose to live as the Stoics lived, with clarity, with action, with discipline. Speak less and do more. Accept discomfort and grow stronger. Define your purpose and live it daily. Refuse to complain and take responsibility. Anchor your worth in virtue, not in applause. The world ignores the ordinary, but you were not born to be ordinary. You were born with the power to shape yourself into something greater. Do not betray that gift. Stop these habits, and you will no longer be invisible. You will not have to ask for respect. It will follow you as surely as fire draws the eye in the darkness. This is your call to action. Stop waiting, stop drifting, stop wasting your life on weakness. Begin now, for the one who strips away these 5 habits will live with such presence that he cannot be ignored. And in the end, when the final day comes, he will know that he has lived fully, that he has left behind a life of weight. The world ignores the ordinary. Stop these habits, and you will never be ordinary again.